Today is Monday, January 13th. We're talking about the new wildfire danger, just as firefighters start getting a handle on what could become one of the worst natural disasters in American history. Also, it's the end of the road for the special counsel who charged President-elect Trump, but his findings could still come to light. Plus, a new trend in college tuition that students are welcoming, a change that could make it easier to tell sarcasm on social media, and a championship matchup set. Who's left in this year's historic college football playoff? Those stories and even more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Well, firefighters have made big progress against massive infernos in Southern California, but the weather is getting worse. Forecasters warn dangerously strong winds are coming back today and will stick around through Wednesday in the dry atmosphere, meaning prime conditions for wildfires to spread. As you know, winds have been largely to blame for last week's wildfires becoming out of control. Since the fires first broke out, they've leveled entire neighborhoods around Los Angeles. Thousands of homes are now destroyed, and at least 24 people have been killed. Dozens have been reported missing, and sadly, the death toll is expected to rise. About 150,000 people are still under evacuation orders, and many of them still don't know if they have anything left, since authorities are asking they stay away from their scorched neighborhoods. One top concern right now is looting, with some people even posing as firefighters to steal from burned homes. Scammers are also apparently trying to trick people in distress. Police have made several arrests, and National Guard troops are now guarding properties. Meanwhile, fires are still actively burning, and new ones are expected to pop up. Now, firefighters and fire equipment from several states, Canada, and Mexico are in Southern California to help. Inmates from California's prison system are also helping firefighting efforts. Still, California Governor Gavin Newsom told NBC News these fires could end up being the worst natural disaster in American history, at least when it comes to costs. He issued an executive order over the weekend to suspend some environmental regulations, hoping that helps fast-track the rebuilding efforts. Tens of thousands of people have already registered for federal assistance, and volunteers have been overflowing donation centers, trying to get help to those who need it most. President-elect Trump was finally sentenced 8 months after being convicted in a historic case over a hush money payment. The New York judge sentenced him to what's called unconditional discharge, and that means he will not have to go to jail, pay a fine, or perform community service. Instead, the only punishment is he'll stay a convicted felon, and with that, he loses some of his rights. For example, he won't ever be able to own a gun, and he might not ever be able to re-enter the casino business if he wanted to, because people with criminal records are typically not able to get gaming licenses. Also note, since this was a state crime, he will not be able to pardon himself. During the sentencing hearing, President-elect Trump said the whole trial was a tremendous setback for New York and again called it a political witch hunt. But the prosecutor and the judge saw it differently. In fact, the judge said granting Trump an unconditional discharge was one of the most difficult decisions, but that he had to consider the circumstances, even after a jury found Trump guilty. Either way, the president-elect's lawyers still say they're appealing this conviction. Every other criminal case Trump once faced is now either dismissed or postponed indefinitely, and the federal prosecutor who investigated the president-elect just resigned. Special counsel Jack Smith led the Justice Department's cases on charges of trying to overturn his 2020 election loss and mishandling classified documents. Neither case ever went to trial, and Smith dropped the charges after Trump's election win in November. Once he submitted his final report on Friday, he stepped down. Well, even though Smith is now gone, the DOJ is still fighting to release the report to the public, while Trump's lawyers are still fighting to keep it under wraps. So, to be continued. The Justice Department is trying to correct the record on the worst race massacre in U.S. history. It was 1921 when a white mob stormed a successful Black economic hub in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that was often referred to as Black Wall Street. With the help of police officers, the mob randomly shot and killed Black people and torched 35 blocks of Black-owned businesses, churches, homes, a library, a school, and a hospital. In the end, historians say as many as 300 people were killed. No one was ever charged in their deaths, and Black Wall Street was never rebuilt. Well, 3 months ago, the DOJ launched the first ever federal investigation into the coordinated attack, and the report just came out corroborating all that information. It called the massacre barbaric, but also said it's not possible to actually prosecute anyone for the crimes. The youngest possible defendants would now be over 115 years old, and relevant statutes of limitations expired decades ago. That said, this is supposed to at least recognize the trauma and loss from one of America's darkest episodes in history. President Biden decided to protect nearly 1 million immigrants from getting deported. And it's not a move President-elect Trump will be able to easily undo, even as he embarks on what he's calling the largest deportation program in American history. Biden was able to cover people who came to the U.S. from Venezuela, El Salvador, Ukraine, and Sudan under the Temporary Protected Status Program. It's meant to help people whose home countries are going through turmoil by basically saying it's okay for them to stay if it's not safe to go home. President-elect Trump has promised to get rid of the program altogether. And he's not the only critic. Many say the temporary protections aren't temporary at all, and people end up staying indefinitely. Still, Biden's move protects about 900,000 immigrants for at least the next 18 months. For the first time in President Biden's term in the White House, he awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom with distinction. It's the nation's highest civilian honor, and Biden bestowed it on Pope Francis. In doing so, Biden called him the People's Pope, saying, quote, "Your humility and your grace are beyond words, and your love for all is unparalleled." Biden is only the second Catholic to be elected president. The first was former President John F. Kennedy, but he did not embrace his faith quite as much, at least not publicly. President Biden has leaned on the Pope for personal and professional guidance, and Biden often cites the pontiff in his speeches. We have more news for you still ahead. But first, I'm excited to tell you about our new sponsor, DeleteMe. We talk about these things right here on the show quite often: identity theft, unwanted spam calls, hacks, and more. The reality is a lot of personal information is on the web, probably more than you think. Your name, contact info, social security number, home address, and more can all be compiled by data brokers and sold online. Data brokers are legal. They make a profit off your data. But when they sell your info, that can ultimately lead to more unwanted spam calls or worse. So DeleteMe can help protect your privacy. I now use this subscription service. I simply gave them my info, and then they do the hours of hard work for me, literally reviewing hundreds of data brokers and removing my personal info as needed. DeleteMe sends me regular personalized privacy reports showing what they found, where they found it, and what they removed. And it's not just a one-time thing either. DeleteMe is always working for you, constantly removing the personal info you don't want on the internet. So take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for DeleteMe, now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, you can get 20% off your DeleteMe plan by texting Newsworthy to 64,000. Text Newsworthy to 64000. Again, text the word Newsworthy to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Okay, now back to the news. The U.S. ended 2024 with a booming jobs market. The U.S. Labor Department just put out the December numbers, and it turns out more than 250,000 jobs were added to the American economy last month. That's thousands more than the month before, and way more than what economists were expecting. Unemployment dropped slightly too, to 4.1%. Again, below expectations. It's the 48th straight month the economy posted job gains, the second longest streak on record. It also means, all said and done, the U.S. added 2.2 million jobs last year, mostly in healthcare, government, leisure, and hospitality, industries that are still playing catch-up from the pandemic. Now, some economists think strong job numbers will mean the Federal Reserve won't drop rates at its next meeting. And with that, the stock market saw a downturn in response to this positive report. Two tech giants have joined the wave of corporations cutting diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. One is Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Meta told employees over the weekend it was completely ditching its DEI initiatives. Amazon announced last month it was winding down many of its DEI programs as well, but said it was focusing on other ways to promote inclusivity. They follow in the footsteps of companies like Walmart, Ford, McDonald's, and many others that have rolled back or shut down initiatives designed to promote diversity in the workplace just within the last year. Some corporate leadership experts say the moves are a sign of companies attempting to align with the incoming Trump administration. Though this initiative started long before Trump won the election, by other conservatives and DEI critics who say there should be more neutrality in business and less, quote, wokeness. Some have even threatened or carried out boycotts against companies with DEI programs. As promoters of DEI programs fight to keep them, saying diversity and inclusion are important to the success of any business. There's a new effort to make sure people on the social media site X are a little less ambiguous. The site, that used to be Twitter, announced a new Parody label to help users know what posts and accounts are serious and which are just satire. It's pretty straightforward, a parentheses that says Parody after the account name, either on the page or on certain posts. Right now, account holders have to apply the labels themselves, though X said it would soon have details on when the labels would become mandatory. The company added, regardless of labels, users still have to follow the platform's authenticity rules, which keeps anyone from impersonating someone else or using a fake persona. The college football national championship game is set. Ohio State will take on Notre Dame for the title, since over the weekend, both teams won their semifinal bowl games. Notre Dame took down Penn State in the Orange Bowl thanks to a last-second field goal. With that, Notre Dame became the first team in history to win multiple bowl games in the same year, which was possible for the first time this season because of the new 12-team playoff format. The day after Notre Dame's win, Ohio State beat Texas in the Cotton Bowl. The national championship game is now just 1 week away on Monday, January 20th in Atlanta. That's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, a quick break for our sponsor. Who wants to start the new year fresh? As in, smelling really fresh. Lumi's Whole Body Deodorant has you covered. Well, it doesn't just cover odor, like some other deodorants. Instead, Lumi is powered by mandelic acid to deliver impressive 72-hour odor control. Yep, it's even clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. It's really the best thing to have in your bag in 2025. I'm especially a fan of Lumi's stick deodorant for the morning, and the deodorant wipes are perfect for travel or anytime you're on the go. It's the perfect transition from the gym to work or from work to an evening happy hour. Lumi's starter pack is perfect for new customers, too. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash that I love, and deodorant wipes, like I mentioned, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get 15% off all Lumi products with our exclusive code. And if you combine that 15% off with the already discounted starter pack, well, that equals over 40% off their starter pack. So use code NEWSWORTHY for 15% off your first purchase at lumideodorant.com. That's code NEWSWORTHY at LUMEDEODORANT.com. Please support our show and let them know we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Lumi. Okay, now back to Money Monday. For years, the cost of college was skyrocketing, with constant tuition hikes putting more financial pressure on students and families each year. But not anymore. Recent data from the nonprofit College Board shows the cost of in-state public college tuition has actually decreased in the past decade when accounting for inflation. And when you look at what people wind up paying after getting grants and financial aid, the price has decreased 40% over the past 10 years. Private university tuition is still on the rise, but the rising costs at those schools have also slowed down in recent years. All this means students are now borrowing less money, and fewer students are graduating with debt as compared to a decade ago. So why is this happening? College Board researchers say the COVID pandemic played a big role, with many schools freezing or decreasing tuition as the learning environment changed radically. The pandemic also led to more public investment in colleges and universities, which allowed some schools to reduce tuition. All that said, college is not exactly cheap. Recent data shows the average tuition cost at a public 4-year college is still about $11,000 a year. At a private nonprofit university, it's closer to $40,000 a year before financial aid. All right, thank you so much for joining us today. We will be back with even more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.